Yo-ho-hoy, 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 My name is Soundout12. Today we're reviewing this. It's the Geardalinger. We'll also be looking at the Zenkai change to Kaiser figure. It's morphin' time! So we're starting our review with the Twokaiser Narakiri set. Now, normally the Narakiri sets for Bandai roleplay toys for Tokusatsu is that they're a combination of multiple items. This one, obviously being the Geardalinger, as well as the Zenkai Buckle in red. Now, the difference between this and the Zenkaiger Narakiri set is that you could buy the Geardalinger and the silver Zenkai Buckle separately, with the Geardalinger only including Zenkaiser and Jiron, and the buckle including Majin, Vroon, and Gown. But in the case of Twokaiser, they've opted not to release his buckle separately, at least at this time. There's no listing for it on the Bandai Toy website, no listing in any retailer. If you want his buckle, or more importantly, if you want the Twokai Cuttana gear, you're going to need to buy this set. This gear will be released in a Gashapon set coming up soon, I think also a Candy Toy set, so it's not going to be hard to find. There'll be options, especially with Deluxe, Gashapon, and Candy Toy all being the same format. Or the same style gear, but if you're trying to get the main three forms for Twokaiser, excuse me, this is going to be the best set to get. Alright, so here is the red Zenkai Buckle. Now this is essentially the silver one, but in red. Let me show you what I mean. It is the silver one, but in red. They're identical, pretty much. They both work the same. You flip this little thing down, and you can see your gears. The only difference here is that while this one fills up most of the way because you got 5 gears in total, this one's only got 3. And as far as we know, currently, he's only got 3. I'm hoping that if there is power-ups, it doesn't exceed 3 for him and 1 for the other, because I like these little gearboxes. That's what I'm calling them, because that's essentially what they are. They're gearboxes. So now before we get too far ahead, let's take a look at the gears themselves. So starting off, we have Twokaiser. Now, Twokaiser's gear is very nice and shiny. It's got a gold tinge to it, and just like Zenkaiser, it's got that rainbow effect. So I guess the human Zenkaigers just have that nice rainbow. On the back, you get kind of the standard symbol we're used to by this point. Now, on the other side, Twokai Riki, which is based on O-Ranger, not exactly O-Ranger per se, but based on it. And if the camera could focus on this gear, that would be fantastic. Olay. So we got there at number 19 for O-Ranger. You can see a picture of Riki there. Riki, of course, being Zox's little brother. Zox, of course, being Twokaiser. The O-Ranger star symbol on the back, which is pretty cool. It is nice to get that because I don't have any other gears from past Sentai, so this is nice to see. And then the last one we have is Twokai Cuttana, which is based, of course, on Shinkenger. See by the 33 there, and there's Cuttana there, who is like a little chibi Shinkino. And he is Zox's other younger brother. And you can see there that you got the Shinkenger logo on the back, which is pretty cool. Now, these 3 gears do work in the, obviously the Geardalinger, which we'll look at in a moment, but also the Geardalinger. Alright, so let's test them out. We're going to start with Twokaiser. Now, what's interesting is with Twokai Riki is that you actually get O-Ranger sounds. And then lastly, we'll do the Twokai Cuttana, which works the same as the Shinkenger, and we'll do all the same stuff. Well, here it is, the Geardalinger itself. Probably one of the weirdest changers I've ever seen, and yet I somehow really love it. This is essentially a fancy space gun with a blade attached and a ship steering wheel that works as a tambourine. Not kidding. That's literally what's going on here. Now, it is mentioned in series that Twokaiser's sister, Flint Goldsweeker, is essentially the one that designed all of his stuff, and boy did she just slap some stuff onto this. That being said, when I first saw the design, I was not quite impressed. I was like, okay, that looks like a lot going on in a changer, and then I actually have it in hand, and I'm thinking to myself, this might be more fun than the Geardalinger. And we'll get to that in a moment, but I did want to show a good size comparison in case you're wondering. Here's the Geardalinger. Here is the Geardalinger. You can see that the Geardalinger is actually quite a bit larger overall, mostly because of ship's wheel sword. But they are about the same size, and the handle size, pretty good on both, actually. So, on that, keep that in mind when you're looking at shipping prices, because, yeah, bigger box, bigger toy. Now, the interesting part here is that the Geardalinger has kind of like a whole Gokaiger vibe to it. Twokaiser himself has a whole Gokaiger vibe. Flint even said it herself that she stole the Gokaiger's designs when she was making his stuff. So, if it feels very Gokaiger knockoff, just say that the pirates got pirated. That's what I'm going with. Anyways, on that, the interesting part here is that the sounds and the voices are different than the Geardalinger, and we'll talk about why that's cool. So let's switch it on. So that voice sounds familiar. You may have heard it in another toy, that being the good old Mobirates from Gokaiger. This thing's 10 years old. If you were there when Gokaiger aired, it's been 10 years, guys. I reviewed this thing when it was new. Anyways, this voice... You hear that? That was Tomozaku Seki, I believe, if I'm wrong. Oh no. But he did the voice for the Geardalinger as well as the Mobirates. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, the Mobirates and I have held up, because that is a big one key from Jacka that made a Flashman sound. But another thing I wanted to point out was that when you switch on the Geardalinger, you get a variation of, which is basically it's a slowed down version of the Gokaiger toy activation music, which was on every Gokaiger toy electronics, whether it was the sword, the gun, the buster, this, the other changer, they all made that sound. And so to go with that, the Geardalinger. It's these kind of things that I really love about this season, because that's not like the obvious homage. That's just like a little musical cue, just for us who have been around way too long and think about this stuff too much. But that being said, what can you do with this thing on its own? Well, you can pull the trigger and it works like a gun. You can also flip out the blade, pushing this down, pull this out, and it still makes gun sounds. I want you to know that this blade has no effect on the actual sound effects. You can also turn the wheel, but it doesn't make any noise. You can also hit it, and it doesn't make any noise. We're going to do all that once we start using the gears. So of course, we got to start with Twokaiser. And then once you have it inputted, you spin the wheel. Now at this point, you can start dancing around, and if you hit this thing like a tambourine, sort of, or just shake it, and pull the trigger. So it 100% doesn't work exactly like it does in the show, mostly because the motion sensor in this thing is a little finicky. Also, the tambourine part, or the ship wheel part, doesn't actually rattle that much. I thought it would have kind of more of a motion, which would get it to kind of react, but you gotta hit this thing kind of hard and hope you're not like moving it in the wrong direction to get kind of what's going on. And especially considering that Twokaiser's whole transformation thing is an entire dance. it can be a little tricky to replicate. Change to Twokai. I forgot like half the steps halfway in. Don't look at me. I forgot the moves. Ha! I strained something. So now that I've totally failed at that, let's see if we can figure out the rest of the toy. I do mean figure out because a lot of these sounds make zero sense. Obviously, when you're transformed, you can still do the blast sounds. If you rotate this, so that's some sort of finisher, but if you hold down the trigger, you get a more concrete one. I should stop. So basically it sounds like that it increases your shots depending on how much this you do. Because really this is going to get more reaction than this. Because this is just plastic to hand. It's not going to work any better faster. Like, for example, you got to get that motion. So, in a sense, it's not totally show accurate. The one thing in the show that is very much about Zox's whole, vibe is that he dances around, he hits this thing like a tambourine, dude is, slapping this all the time, and the toy doesn't quite work like that, because slapping it really doesn't do anything. It's more about the motion. If the plate had a rattle ability, it probably would be able to rattle and set off a motion sensor, but you're more so just better off doing this. Apparently I'm doing another attack. And that's another thing, when you're trying to shake it, you end up spinning it. So, it's a little inaccurate, but I do kind of appreciate, I'm going to take the gear out for a moment just to do this, I do kind of appreciate how easy it is to spin this thing. Because this is so much easier than the little crank wheel on the Geardalinger. You can just kind of spin that really good. It'll activate your sounds. It's just one of those things where it's a little bit simpler of an experience. Back on track, we're going to do the opposite side of the gear, which will be for the mecha stuff. It's mostly just summoning his mecha, I believe. It doesn't do anything else. And there's nothing really to be done afterwards. And there's one more. So that's his ship, and the bike form, and the other ship form. It's a little bit of a weird mecha, but basically there's 3 different vehicle parts, and that's what those sounds are. So, let's transition to his Odon form using Riki's gear. Now, the easy part, of course, is the transformation. The other part with the mecha is going to be confusing, but we're going to try to make it as simple as possible. So that's his Oren form based on Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger. I like the kind of Egyptian sounds. A lot of O-Ranger stuff was Egyptian themed, and especially the Six Ranger, also Riki, King Ranger, had a pyramid for a mecha. So having the Egyptian theme is pretty cool, and I love that the tambourine sound for this is the ole, which is a thing that O-Ranger did a lot. You of course also have a finisher move. What's interesting is there is a finisher sound with gun blast sounds, even though Oren form so far has been melee combat only. It doesn't use the weapon, so interesting. Now, of course, to do the Oren form of the Twokai, we're going to flip the gear over and run it there. So 2 out of Kaio Riki operation, and then we have another attack. Oh, no, I think it's a combination sound. Okay, that's the finisher sound for 2 Kaio Riki. So there is that. Now, of course, we do also have one more gear, that being the Cuttana, Twokai Cuttana for the Shinken form. So it's the same standby sound mixed in with samurai themes, just like the O-Ranger one was the same standby music, but mixed with Egyptian themes. So it's got that traditional Japanese style, like the sore, kind of goes along with it. Now in this form, he actually uses the sword form of the Gerdalinger. It's the only form to use it. As Twokaiser, he doesn't use the sword form, which is probably why there isn't shooting sounds in its, other 2 gears. But in this, it has sword noises. And in fact doesn't have blast noises. Like I said, the blade doesn't affect the sounds, it's just kind of there for show. But it's actually a pretty substantial blade. It's not quite a full sword, but it's a nice little dagger. Of course, also an attack. So, there's the Shinken finish. And of course, we'll flip it over to do Twokai Cuttana. And we'll do its finisher. And that's the 3 gears. Now, for those of you wondering, yes, the Zenkaiger gears can be used. However, whether it's Zenkaiser, Juron, Gaon, Vrajin, or Vroon, they all make the same sound in the Geardalinger. So, in that conclusion, you at least get some sounds with other gears. Now, I'm not 100% certain on the other Sentai gears, because I don't have any other Sentai gears, but it is nice to see that it at least works with the Zenkaigers. So there we have Zenkai Change Hero Series, Twokaiser. The reason why I'm including this at the end of the Geardalinger review is simply because it's a basic figure, and I think making its own video would be a little excessive. So this is essentially the 6th release in the Zenkai Change Hero series after the main 5, and it allows Twokaiser here to turn into Oran and Shinken forms halfway. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I just want to show off him in package, nicely packaged like the others. Alright, so there's Twokaiser in his base form. He is essentially the long-lost Gokai Gold in so many design elements. Flint was not kidding when she said she just kind of stole their whole look. It's spot on. Like, this is literally like, it's essentially Gokai Red's helmet if it had an extra pirate hat. But yeah, it's kind of funny. He does have the Zenkai Buckle, but still very Gokaiger, just straight up Gokaiger logo in the middle of the chest. He is one of the most direct homages to a past series, because unlike, you know, Zenkaiser here, who's a nice little fusion of Aka Ranger and Big One, Twokaiser's just straight up Gokai Gold, which I think is kind of funny. By the way, these are in the same scale, of course. This is the Zenkai Change Hero series, Zenkaiser and Twokaiser, so they do line up. We'll do a group shot at the end. Kind of interesting part about this figure I found is that he's pretty gold. This is a fairly gold figure, kind of a mustardy gold, not gold. There's no real gold paint on him. He's gold, but not like gold. I made 0 sense, I apologize. That being said, overall paint's pretty decent. This is a 2,000 yen figure. He's about, 500 yen more than the other figures because he comes with more stuff. But yeah, he looks alright. I think overall, he's still kind of half painted. This is something where, like, the Yudo release of this character, which hopefully will happen, will probably have stickers to go all the way around. Just him being painted, he's only painted halfway. So it's something I'm very used to with Bandai's Power Rangers figures, but 2 years into Hasbro Power Rangers, I'm kind of spoiled by getting full belt paint, full boot paint, and the back just having detail. Because even if it's, you don't see the back of a figure on a shelf that much, you do see the side. And I think that, like, the sides not being fully painted is kind of like one of the biggest bummers. But, what can you do? Of course, he does have all that wonderful articulation we come to expect. That's way too wide of a camera angle. These got, the head left and right, the ball joint up and down, the shoulders that ball joint. They pull out a little bit too, so if you want to get some extra range around the shoulder pad, and the shoulder pad does move. You got bicep swivel, elbow, and a wrist swivel as well. You also got waist, which apparently pops in half. This line will never cease to amaze me at how much stuff comes apart just by accident. Hips, forward, out, thigh swivel, which again, as soon as you start turning the thigh, there's no black there, it just looks weird. Knee, pretty dang good, and that awesome little ankle. So, with that being said, he can at least pose well. Now, unfortunately, his Geardalinger is very nicely sculpted. No paint, but I didn't expect that. But the problem is they put the handle down here, and they didn't really... I think they should have resculpted this. This part was smooth, and you could put his hand between the blade, because the way he holds it... sorry, he's left-handed. The way he holds it is just super weird. It doesn't look right. It doesn't line up with the actual, like, toy or the prop in the show. It just looks very awkward. And he doesn't have a cool, like, extra tambourine hand. You can kind of have him doing his little dance stuff. Can he balance on one foot? Am I testing the limits of a basic figure too much? Probably. Yeah, there we go. He can dance. But yeah, that's kind of like, it just doesn't look right. That's something I think that should have been resculpted so that the blade was kind of in front, but it just kind of slide down over the hand instead of doing this, because it just looks weird. But that being said, he is a figure of multiple forms. So if you want to switch out to his Oran form, you just got to pull the collar piece off, and then he comes with 2 other parts here. One you could see in the box, which was the top collar, and then one you couldn't, which was the skirt piece. So we'll put the collar part around. You could probably remove the head if you want, but I just kind of find it easy to do that. And then with the skirt piece, you want to split it open, bring it around. There's a little peg in the back of his waist. You peg that on here, bring this down, and then boom, Odin form. Which I'm not going to give him the weapon, because he seems to just use, you know, mostly hand-to-hand combat. His fists here are good. The only bummer with this, first of all, nicely painted all the way around. Really, this is actually where I think all the paint budget went, was in these add-ons, because, yeah, shoulder bits move and all that, but fully painted metallic all over the place. This is where the real money is. And then very nice details for the O-Ranger symbols on the skirt. But there is one problem. In series, the actual head, which I'm trying to focus on. Come on, camera, focus on the head. There we go. So the actual head, see how it says 35 and has the Gokaiger logo? Well, when you change this to Orin form, it says 19 and has the O-Ranger logo, and then when you change this to Shinken form, it says 33 and has the Shinkenger logo. And even though this figure has a removable head, you only get the one. So it's always going to be inaccurate in the other forms with that one detail. And that's kind of a bummer. I feel like maybe, you know, even we had to bump the price a little bit, maybe it would have been nice to have, you know, the other heads, because this figure already has an alternating head. It's built in right there. So that's the bummer. That's probably like my least favorite part of the figure. Otherwise, the swapping form function's pretty good. So let's pull the Orin parts off here, and then we'll switch over to the Shinkenger ones. So easy thing with the skirt, just like Orin's. These are on ball joints too, so they kind of get out of the way of articulation. And then we'll do the chest, which actually has to split in half. So we'll put the back plate on, put this plate on front. I've done this 100 times with figures before. And then we'll give him the sword, which he does typically hold in his right hand, which this one looks better. See, because they actually just molded the handle to be the handle, instead of adding a handle on the bottom of the handle. And it's kind of funny. It's more in proportion with the deluxe toy than the show. But there you go. Now you got Shinken form minus the helmet, which isn't accurate. Yeah, so there's Shinken form. Honestly, I think Shinken form is my favorite look of Twokaiser overall. I think the red and the gold accent each other well. The silver and the blue kind of clash with the gold, I think, but the red kind of goes with it. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty neat figure. I think just like with the main team, I do kind of wish that he was a little bit better. It's like these little things. Like the main team, I wish they didn't pop apart all the time. And I wish their transformations made more sense. With this guy, I wish that they had the alternate heads, because I think if he had the alternate heads, I'd probably, you know, give him a more solid recommendation. Alright, so here's the whole team together. Honestly, Zenkai change figures, they're not perfect, but I do like the painted quality to them. That definitely helps a lot. And it was nice to get the team this soon, not having to wait a long time. And I'm glad to have them. One quick note on the Kikainoids, for those wondering. I've had them about a month now. They don't fall apart on the shelf. Pretty much the way that, you know, I kind of displayed them in the review was very much in the, oh, you pick up to play and then boom, his arm comes off. But when they're actually on the shelf, they're pretty solid. I haven't had, it's not like I like look over the shelf and Majine's just spread into 6 pieces because she like exploded. It's not like Figma Kamen Rider Sting, that piece of crap. Anyways, these are definitely holding together in display mode. It's just when you go to like pose on that, there's that chance they're just going to start going. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Geardalinger and Twokaiser figure are both imperfect toys, but honestly, they're fun. The Changer more so. I really do love the spinning function. It's so much more fun than the Geardalingers, because the Geardalinger's little gear crank thing, just, it gets tiresome after a while. But this thing, you can kind of just spin it really fast and it'll activate on its own. And the motion sensor's pretty fun when you stop trying to slap it and more just start shaking it. So, wow, I hope no one clips that out of context. But anyways, on that note, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like, hit subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please share it in any groups that follow Tokusatsu and Zenkaiger stuff, because YouTube's not been recommending my videos to get out there lately, and I'd really appreciate people sharing it around so more people can know it's out there, because it seems to be my videos keep getting hidden for some reason, algorithms and whatnot. Also, thank you to everyone that has subscribed over the years. We've hit 12,000 subscribers in my 12th year, so that's been pretty fun. I'm going to do something special for that later, but I did want to thank everyone that's been watching, because I appreciate you guys. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. It helps everything keep moving along. And so until then, Be sure to check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for hero news and more, and my awesome graphic designer on Twitter at darkclaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.